Hey, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, the lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
And, hi. What are we doing first? We're doing review of the week,
Review of the
right?
week!
Review of the week!
Review of the week!
It was a hard choice.
Who's talking to us? Who's let's, I want to hear what people are saying.
Glennis Liz Decor. Again, I'm sure I'm ruining that, but Glennis Liz Decor says, "You guys rock," all in capitals. Thanks for being open and honest, with the little hearts emoji. So not only do we love your reviews, but I love when you add like the little heart emojis to them because it just makes me feel good.
I'm sorry. It makes you sound really old, Diane.
Does it?
I love your emojis. I love you guys' emojis. They're so cute.
What? Is that what we call them? What are they?
No, they are. They're emojis, aren't they?
They're emojis? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
I love the little heart.
Well, you know. I know. I like them too.
I used to have to draw that stuff. And now we don't have to do that anymore.
I know. We used to fold up the paper, like write the little hearts with the little arrow through it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Remember the fancy way to fold the paper? Where you could like fold it into like a
I used to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway.
Now that we're showing how old we are. But
I know.
But that is our review of the week. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Glennis Liz.
It really helps a lot. It helps us a lot.
Yes, thank you. And this is probably the most exciting episode.
It really
that we've ever done.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you guys, a lot of people knew that the beginning of this month, we ran a photo contest and we got over 400 photos. It was agony. We had to narrow it down to 10 photos.
Abby almost got divorced.
I almost got divorced. My husband became very involved, and it was like we just went back and forth. Oh my God. And so we narrowed it down to 10 photos after a lot of heartache. And we posted the 10 photos on, and everyone in the community voted. And the photo with the most votes, their prize was to be the very first guest on the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. We've never had a guest before. That was been a long time trying to figure out how to do this because Diane and I are in separate cities.
New territory for our podcast.
Yes, very new territory for some technically, troubled folks. So
put it mildly, yeah.
So the winner was Rebecca with a beautiful photo, sort of a collage photo of herself breastfeeding her baby in the NICU. The first time he latched after several weeks of not feeding. And that one won by quite a lot. And so she's our first guest today. And we get to talk to her. It's uber exciting.
It is. It is really cool. But it's an amazing story. And, the pictures, I just have to say something about these pictures again, because we were so overwhelmed by them.
I know. I know. It's hard to express exactly how overwhelming of a thing it was.
And we all had our favorites, and it was just like these pictures were just coming in. And I mean, your husband got involved where you guys were like arguing over who should be the winner or whatever you guys were doing, trying to pick who's going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
My husband was like, can see the emails coming in on our email account, because he... Well, I think after that whole situation, he stopped monitoring it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not checking this anymore.
He was like, do you know you have 300 emails in your email? Do you know are you looking at these emails? And I'm like, stop talking to me. Like, it's fine. We got it. We know what we're doing.
That's the point. It's part of the game.
But it was like, they were amazing. Like, I couldn't believe how amazing these pictures were.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, I've been doing this for a long time now. My big thing has been sharing photos and seeing photos on social media. And there were photos on there that blew me away.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I was like, these photos are amazing.
And even, when with Rebecca, she was like, there was so many amazing photos on there. I can't believe I was picked. It's just.
Yeah. It got to the point where my husband and I were like, we're going to have to change this from 10 to 20 because we just can't work with 10 photos. It's not going to work. We can't fit all of these great photos into 10 slots. And as soon as I had made that decision, I was like relieved. And then I realized that you cannot upload more than 10 photos to Instagram at a time.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh no, we got to go back. And that's when we was like, okay, I have to eliminate this photo. And then my husband and I are like, oh my God, walking into separate rooms. Like, it, it was nuts. It was nuts.
And I know, like, you had sent me a text, and I was out in the hot tub, I think. And I was like, oh, sorry, I missed it. I was in the hot tub. And you're like, well, while you're kicking it in the hot tub, me and my husband are getting divorced over this contest. I was like, oh, shit. It was like crazy.
Yep.
It was crazy. And then, of course, we're like, all right, we'll do it again in another month. So if you didn't win.
Yeah. So we decided every month was too much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
But we decided quarterly, we're going to do this. And it's going to be so much fun. And we're going to get to talk to so many of you. And not just with photo contests, because now we're getting more of an understanding on how we can work with Dianne and I being in separate cities and having guests. And so we're going to be able to talk to more of you. But today we're talking to Rebecca, and we are so excited because she's a beautiful person with a beautiful story and a beautiful baby and all of that.
Yeah. And
so let's get to it.
The basis.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the basis behind the pictures was, what did breastfeeding mean to you?
Yes. Good point.
And, so what we wanted to do was, when we picked our winner, or when you guys picked our winner, because it was a community that picked our winner, we want to hear the story behind that picture. You know, we want to hear everything about what led up to that picture and how you felt with that and what was going on around it. And I even asked her who took the picture, you know, because it's like, that's an important piece of it too. So, so I would love to, let's share her story.
Let's get to it.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for doing this with us.
I'm like so flattered. This is awesome.
Now, do you normally listen to the podcast, or did you just happen to get into the contest?
I honestly have just re-downloaded the podcast app on my phone. Like, I don't really know much about them. So no, I don't.
Well,
he had reached out to me, about this contest, actually. So she told me, you know, that she wanted like NICU babies represented, because I had sent her my little story back when I had my son. And I was like, absolutely, like, I would love to be entered in a contest. Like, I never do things like this, you know, enter in like Instagram contests or anything.
Yeah.
So I did, and then, you know, I just happened to win. So, you know, this was the prize. So I was like, all right, awesome.
Well, congratulations. There was some amazing pictures that were brought in too. So it's really cool.
I know. They really were. Like, I really was like, wow, it's so awesome that it's just so many different walks of life that really were represented in all the pictures, that it's so relatable to everybody, you know?
No, it was amazing. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us too, because it's, you know, it's such an important thing. So, would you start by telling us the story of your pregnancy?
Sure, of course. Absolutely. So I got pregnant back in October last year, and just had a pretty normal pregnancy. I didn't go into labor on my own when I was due, technically. So they told me that I was due July 12th, when I really thought I was due July 15th. So July 12th came along, and they were like, oh, no, we have this as your due date. You know, I guess they don't tell you if they change it within like a week.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, from what I thought, it was not now, but whatever. So then they asked me, you know, at this point I can be induced. And I was like, you know, I really would like to not be induced if I don't have to be. So I kept going back, like, you know, every week. And then at 42 weeks, the doctor was like, you know, we have to induce you now. You know, it's not good for the baby, and this, that, and the third. So I was really upset, because I really wanted to have that, in my mind, experience of, you know, going into labor, your water breaking, you know what I mean? That whole thing. So I was kind of bummed. But anyway, I went to the hospital the next morning, and they started inducing me with just, you know, the pill that I guess gets your contractions going and your cervix going, because I wasn't even dilated at all.
Oh, okay.
Like the baby didn't want to come out. He was just hanging out in there.
It's
So
cozy.
they they started that. They let me even eat at one point during the day, and it was just so crazy because right after I ate, it was like my body knew that it was not going to be a good thing. And I just vomited every single thing that I had in
Oh
my
my
body. It
gosh.
was like so horrible. And then after that, the doctor was like monitoring me, and she noticed that the baby wasn't responding well, and I was having very light contractions, and he wasn't really responding well. So she was like, we're going to hold off on the second dosage of that medication until we, see that he's going to be responding well. So that didn't ended up happening. So basically, she called it for an emergency C-section.
Oh.
And about an hour and a half later, she delivered him, and he had the cord wrapped around his neck, so he was in distress. So because of that, he ended up making his first bowel movement inside me, and when he took his first breath, he aspirated all the meconium.
Okay.
So that ended up turning into a whirlwind of, normally when it happens to babies, it's not on a very large scale, and they end up being okay after just, getting suctioned out and putting on oxygen. But the amount that he ended up ingesting was so much that he, had to be intubated, and he was flown to Westchester Medical Center the same night that he was born. So I didn't even get to hold him for like the first, you know what I mean? Like I didn't even get to see him for at least 2 days,
Oh my
and
goodness.
hold him for at least a week after that because he was intubated. So it was really tough because I wanted to, breastfeed. So
Now
that was pretty much the pregnancy
how
and birth.
far? Oh my goodness. How far was the other hospital from where you had delivered him?
I live in Newburgh, which is Orange County, and Westchester is about, I would say, an hour away.
Okay.
If you don't have traffic and you're like smooth sailing, it's like an hour. But so he was airlifted there.
Now,
so they just take them in whatever way that is more, quick to get them there.
So did you have to stay? Did you get to go with him, or did you have to stay at the hospital that you were at?
No, I had to stay at the hospital. This was at like 1:30 in the morning that the neonatologist came to my room and told me that they really weren't equipped at the hospital to handle him, so that he was going to have him airlifted.
And how old was he at
so
that point?
I,
How long had he been?
He was only probably like 5 hours old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when did you get to go to the hospital where he was?
I got discharged pretty quickly, actually. My one of the OBGYNs in the group that I had went to that was on that day came in, and he was like, listen, your incision looks good. He was like, I know you want to be with your baby. This was the day. I was in the hospital for about 2 days. And he was like, do you want to go? He said, normally I would keep you for like another day. He was like, but if you want to go, you can go. And I was like, yeah, definitely. So they discharged me that day around noon, and then I went home really quick. I changed, I got something to eat, and I went right to the hospital to be with him. So the first couple of days, so as soon as I did that, thankfully I had the help of my sister and stuff, and she filled out the application for the Ronald McDonald's house for me.
Okay.
So within the first couple of days that he was at the hospital, I had gotten a room at the Ronald McDonald's house. So
nice.
I had packed up a huge bag of stuff, and I went there that same night, and I took my pump, and I was, I had a huge supply at the hospital already.
Wow.
And at that point, he wasn't really even able to eat because basically I didn't have anything pumped when he was first born. And they weren't even worried about feeding him because of all the other stuff that was going on with him. So when they finally were ready to, they didn't have any like colostrum or anything. And he didn't qualify for donor milk because he wasn't a preemie. So they had to give him formula, which he threw. They only gave him 5 milliliters of formula, and he threw it all up eventually throughout that day. So they ended up not feeding him anything, but they were washing his belly out with like sterile water for a couple of days until he was stable enough to try and get fed again.
Okay.
So by that point, I had a huge supply already formed. So they gave him breast milk, and he ate that right up, and he has not stopped eating since that day. He's just gotten hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. So it was about 2 weeks that he was in the NICU before he was finally able to latch. But I mean, he was just like, a champion. He just latched right away. Right.
So
he just took right to it.
So tell me, how often or when did you start pumping, and how often were you pumping until he was able to latch?
I was pumping every 3 to 4 hours when I was at the hospital. And I was basically delivering it to the hospital. Unless it was nighttime, I would like go down to the refrigerator and put it in there. But I would pretty much pump and then deliver it to the hospital.
Okay.
And after a certain, after he got to like a certain strength, they were letting me like do skin to skin with him, and then feeding him through the feeding tube with the little syringe. So that was nice.
Okay. How old was he before you were able to do skin to skin and hold him?
He was probably about, I would say, 2.5 to 3 weeks old, within that range.
Before you could hold him?
Yeah. No, he was younger than that I was able to hold him, but it was only, they're on a very regimented schedule when they're in the NICU because of the way that they feed them and the way that they, he needed rest because he was, not well, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. How stressful for you though. So he was able to latch at about 3 weeks, and you could bring him home at about 4 weeks. So for that week that you were still in the NICU, he just continued to breastfeed, or did they still have to give him? How did that go? Like at the beginning?
It was actually pretty difficult. They were extremely accommodating as far as the nursing staff calling me when he was ready to eat, or like, informing me of his schedule, when they make their rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Is, when, they change his diaper, and, so I was able to go and change his diaper and, basically like take care of him while he was there. But, it got hard in the middle of the night. And also there was a time in between, I think it was like from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning and at night, where they would like change shifts, so you weren't able to go during those times. But anyway, I'd be sleeping or something like that. I would pump during that time.
Okay.
But it got a little difficult because, sometimes there was like an uncomfortable chair. There wasn't like really any,
Right.
like much comfort as far as that's concerned. And, I would be tired. He was so small and tired, and, they recommend like 15 minutes each side, and he would be like falling asleep even within that time. So, they were still encouraging me to pump and feed him through the bottle for a little while. They were letting me latch, and then I would finish feeding him because he would still be hungry sometimes when he was done latching, finish up feeding him with the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in the beginning. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So did you ever worry about keeping your supply where it needed to be with just pumping, and the exhaustion and the worry and the stress? And
in the beginning it was fine, but there was a point that my supply just stopped being enough, and that was not very early on. I would say at about 2 months, 2.5 months, it kind of, either he started eating more or I stopped producing as much, or kind of both of those things happened at the same time. So I just stopped producing as much, and they had to start supplementing him with formula. So it got me very upset because obviously that wasn't in my plan.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want him to be hungry and things like that. And I was doing everything that I could on my end to produce. I
Absolutely.
met with the lactation counselors. I was, taking that fenugreek. I'm drinking a ton of water. I'm eating oats and doing all this stuff, like looking at pictures of him when I'm pumping and trying to go and latch him as much as I could at the hospital. So it just was like, like you said, exhaustion after a while. It was just like, okay, you know what? He needs this, and this is what's going to work for me. So that's what we ended up doing, and that's what we still do till this day. But we still have our time when he latches, and I still pump to keep my supply up because sometimes he's a little bit lazy, so he doesn't want to, you know what I mean? He doesn't want to latch enough to help my milk come down because he'll just fall asleep. So
Yeah.
I end up pumping so that way I can at least keep the little supply that I do have going so that he still gets some breast milk because that's still important to me. And it's so important to him too. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So since you've been home, have you kind of gotten into a better routine? Things have been a little bit better. I'm sure much better
absolutely.
than being at the NICU, but as
Oh
far as
God, yeah.
breastfeeding,
It's really nice. We definitely have our thing is definitely laying down together in bed. I breastfeed him other places, like, but he's still little, so I don't take him out much, especially because he has a pulmonologist and they recommend to not try to get like put him in situations that's going to make him get sick. So I try to keep him away from things so he
mm-hmm.
doesn't get sick if he doesn't have to. um so I really am home a lot with him. So laying in bed together, it's kind of our routine, our thing. I nurse him for a little while, and if he falls asleep, I kind of lay with him and just take a nap and relax. And then if he, needs more, I'll give him a bottle and, things like that.
So you're
So
able
that's
to have that
definitely
great bonding time with him that you really did not
exactly.
get at all in the NICU.
It, oh yeah, exactly. He's such a mama's boy. Like I swear, he is so good. He will not hear a peep out of him if he's being held. He's like a saint. The minute you put him
Oh.
down, that's when like his other side comes out, and he's like a fussy and things like that. I mean, he's still good for a little while, but he's definitely an affectionate baby. Like he likes contact.
Oh. So
Yeah.
what originally made you want to breastfeed?
Well, my sister breastfed my nieces, and I've had friends that breastfed, and I just, always felt like if I do have a baby, that it's something I definitely want to get at least give a try, because that's what your body is made for. So it's cool. It was like
Yeah.
intriguing to me that that's what happens naturally. It's just all s- set up for that purpose. So it was amazing,
And you
and
had a
you just
great
learn more
role
and more
model.
about it.
You had a
Yeah,
great role model too, which is really nice when you have that family support and, somebody to look up
absolutely.
to and ask questions to and all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, my sister had a breast pump that she had left over and saved just in case, like, because I have another sister as well. So just in case, like, either of us had a baby. And she actually was able to give it to me because I didn't have a breast pump and I was scrambling to get one from my breastfeeding consultant and
Mm.
stuff like that. So it was great because she was able to give it to me,
Oh, that's
so that I
fantastic.
would have something. Yeah, until I got one.
So what does breastfeeding come to mean to you?
It's really a nurturing feeling for me. I really feel like I have such a more like closeness with my son than, I don't like to ever compare or judge any other situation, but it just really is like I even feel different when I do give him his bottle. Like sometimes I'll still like enjoy giving him his bottle. Like if I don't have like a shirt on, I'll do that because that makes me feel closer to him too.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's a feeling that I'm supplying him with also a feeling of security and closeness to me, and that he identifies me as somebody who's going to nurture him and care for him and feed him.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Was there ever a time for that whole month that you were in the NICU that you were afraid you weren't going to be able to breastfeed him?
Yes, absolutely. That was when my breast milk came in, I was so relieved, and when I was not able to have him latch for quite some time, I was so afraid that it was going to stop coming in, and it really made me so determined to keep pumping. And the nurses were so like helpful and encouraging with that too. They were like, just, go and pump, and like I would be spending time with him, and they would like say like, go pump and come back, and so we'll feed him for you, so they were really helpful
Oh, that's so
with
good.
it.
That's great because it is such a
Yeah.
stressful situation overall.
Yeah,
So
you really do need support. It's
you
crazy
do.
to say, but you do.
It's awful. So who took that beautiful picture?
One of the nurses, actually. That was the very first time that he latched. And
Oh.
she was so she was just so happy because he had a new nurse like every day basically, but they had like 12-hour shifts, so they were with him for a very long time throughout the day. So you would get to know them, and they would get to know you, and he's like a little ladies man, so they just ate him up. They loved him so much. And it was funny because he wasn't a preemie, so he looked enormous compared to the other babies that were in the NICU because
Yeah.
most of them were preemie babies. Um,
Oh my
so he was like
gosh.
the big kid on the block, so it was so funny.
So how much did he weigh when he was born? What day was he born? What was his birth date?
He was born July 26th.
Okay.
At
And
8:03
8:03.
p.m.
And how much did he weigh?
7 pounds 6 ounces.
Wow. So he was a good sized baby for the NICU.
Yeah, he was 19 inches. Yeah,
Oh my
he was a good
gosh.
sized boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And now
amazing.
he has to go to the doctor, but the last time he went, he was 12 pounds 6 ounces
Oh my
and
gosh.
24 inches. He's
Wow.
smiling. Yes, big
That's
boy.
fantastic.
Yes.
And he's your first baby, right?
Yes, first and only.
First and only.
Yes.
And what's his name? Tell us what his full name is.
Onyx Nicola Lucino.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well,
Thank you.
congratulations. You've done an amazing job. It is really
Thank you
hard.
so
I mean,
much.
the challenges that come up for breastfeeding mamas, regardless, can be really, really difficult to deal with day by day. But when you have something like the NICU and a sick baby and you're so worried and you're just trying to heal, you had such a traumatic delivery and you're trying to heal from that on top of everything else, it is amazing that you were able to do everything that you did.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
you
much.
look back at that, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what an amazing thing I did for my child, because it really is.
You have no idea. I've never been a diary writer like with anything, but I actually had gotten advice from one of the NICU nurses, and she said, just write everything down I'm telling you to help you. And I actually did. And every day that he was there, I wrote like a detailed entry, right down to how much I was pumping and when I fed him and how long. So it's cool because I have that to look back on, and like you just said, and just think about wow, I made it through that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a really great, suggestion. I love that she suggested that you do that. And now you do have it to look back on and think about. And, I know it's a difficult time to remember, but it was the first month of his life. So it's always going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. The nurses, I've always had respect for nurses, but they just blew me out of the water, from the way that they treated you as a parent to him as a patient and a baby, because he is a baby, even though he's a patient in the hospital, and they really just treated them so delicately. And it made it so much easier, because if it wasn't made as easy as it was by them, I don't know how I would have gotten through it. I really don't. The hospital was incredible.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for calling me and asking and sharing it for me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we
I love
cannot.
you guys so much.
Oh, we cannot wait to get this out there. So, hopefully it will come out. We'll definitely let you know when we're airing it, but hopefully it'll be next week. So we'll let you know for sure.
Do. Stay in touch. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it again.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was so awesome. That was so awesome. I loved hearing her story. It was so inspirational. I'm so happy for her and her baby that they're...
Yes. You know, it's so, I've talked to, you know, doing this for as long as I've been doing it, so many NICU moms, and it's such a difficult thing that you can't even relate to unless you're there. And she mentioned, you know, a couple of times about how it's so, you know, it's so hard, it's loud, it's noisy, it's, you know, there's so much going on there. You're trying to pump, you're worried about your baby, you're trying to recover from having your baby. Like there's so much happening, and it's so hard to keep your focus, and you just, you know, you need a good support system, and just keep that focus on what you're doing for your baby. It's so hard, but she really made it work. She did amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, it was so awesome listening to her story, and we hope that you enjoyed it too.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear your comments on it or your feedback.
Yes. Please share your experience with us. You can share it in the review section at iTunes, and you can also share it on our website, currently under construction and bigger and better and amazing coming. But just hold on. You can still visit badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. And check out sponsor links and promo codes and all of our other episodes. But like I said, there's some construction, but it'll be done soon.
And you'll love it.
Yes, you will.
You will love it.
And thanks so much.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.